August 1945, a date that changed the very fabric of human history. It was the moment the world entered the atomic age, not with a whisper, but with a roar that could be felt across the cosmos. We're talking about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, two cities, two bombs, hundreds of thousands of lives lost in the blink of an eye. This isn't just a story about war. It's a story about the terrifying peak of human ingenuity and the devastating depths of its consequences. To understand how we got here, we have to go back to 1939. The world was on the brink of chaos. Scientists, many of whom had fled Nazi Germany, were terrified. They knew that nuclear fission, the splitting of an atom, was no longer just a theory. It was a reality. And they knew that if Hitler got his hands on an atomic weapon first, the world, as they knew it, would cease to exist. This fear led to the Einstein-Szilard letter, a direct warning to President Roosevelt that sparked the most secretive and expensive scientific endeavor in history, the Manhattan Project. Imagine the scale of this. Over $2 billion, nearly $30 billion in today's money, and 125,000 people working in total secrecy across dozens of sites in the United States. They were chasing a ghost, a weapon of such power it was almost unimaginable. Under the direction of General Leslie Groves and the scientific leadership of J. Robert Oppenheimer, two distinct designs emerged. One was Little Boy, a uranium-based gun-type weapon. The other, far more complex, was Fat Man, a plutonium-based implosion device. By 1945, the war in Europe was over, but the Pacific was a different story. The fighting was brutal, primal, and showed no signs of stopping. The battles for Iwo Jima and Okinawa had seen casualty rates that defied logic. The Japanese military was prepared for a fight to the absolute end. They were training civilians, men, women, and even children, to defend the home islands with bamboo spears if necessary. The Allied invasion plan, Operation Downfall, was predicted to cost millions of lives on both sides. In July 1945, the Trinity test in New Mexico proved the bomb worked. The light was brighter than 1,000 suns. Oppenheimer, watching the mushroom cloud rise, famously recalled a line from the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The question was no longer if the weapon worked, but how and where it would be used. The Allies issued the Potsdam Declaration, demanding Japan's unconditional surrender. The alternative? Prompt and utter destruction. The Japanese government, caught between internal factions and a hope for a negotiated peace, chose to ignore the ultimatum. The gears of the 509th Composite Group, a specialized unit trained for this exact moment, began to turn on the small island of Tinian. August 6, 1945. 2:45 a.m. The Enola Gay AB-29 Superfortress, piloted by Colonel Paul Tibbets, lifted off. Inside its belly sat Little Boy. The target was Hiroshima, a city of significant military and industrial importance that had been largely spared from previous firebombing raids, specifically so the effects of the atomic bomb could be clearly measured. The flight was hauntingly routine. At 8:15 a.m., the bomb was released. It fell for 44 seconds before detonating 1,900 feet above the Shima Surgical Clinic. In that microsecond, the temperature at the center of the explosion reached several million degrees Celsius. A fireball broader than 2 football fields formed. The flash was so intense it bleached the very air. People near the hypocenter were simply vaporized, leaving behind nothing but permanent shadows etched into stone walls and sidewalks. Then came the blast wave. Moving at speeds greater than sound, it flattened everything within a mile radius. Concrete buildings crumbled like sandcastles. The heat was so intense it ignited a firestorm that sucked the oxygen out of the air, creating a literal hurricane of flame. Those who survived the initial blast found themselves in a nightmare landscape of black rain, radioactive condensation that fell from the sky, coating the survivors in toxic soot. Back in Washington, the news was received with a grim sense of accomplishment. But in Japan, there was confusion. Communication lines to Hiroshima had simply gone dead. It took hours for the central government to realize that an entire city had been wiped off the map by a single weapon. Yet, even then, the military hardliners refused to yield. 3 days later, the second act began. The original target was Kokura, but heavy cloud cover and smoke from a previous conventional raid saved the city. The crew of the B-29 boxcar moved to their secondary target, Nagasaki. At 11:02 a.m., Fat Man was dropped. Because Nagasaki is tucked into a valley, the hills muffled the blast somewhat, preventing the total level destruction seen in Hiroshima. But the plutonium core was more powerful. The result was equally horrific. Schools, hospitals, and homes were reduced to ash. The human cost was staggering. In Hiroshima, between 90,000 and 166,000 people died. In Nagasaki, another 60,000 to 80,000. These weren't just soldiers. The vast majority were civilians. Mothers, children, elderly residents. And for those who survived, the horror was only beginning. A new, invisible killer had been unleashed: radiation. People who appeared uninjured suddenly lost their hair, developed purple spots on their skin, and bled from their gums. Their internal organs were failing. This was atomic bomb disease, or radiation sickness, a phenomenon the world had never seen on such a scale. On August 15th, Emperor Hirohito did something unprecedented. He addressed the Japanese people via radio, announcing the surrender. He cited the new and most cruel bomb as a primary reason, stating that to continue the fight would lead to the total extinction of the Japanese race. The debate over these bombings has never truly ended. Was it a necessary evil to end a war that would have otherwise claimed millions more? Or was it a war crime, an unnecessary demonstration of power at the dawn of the Cold War? Supporters argue that the shock of the bombs gave the Japanese leadership the out they needed to surrender without losing face, effectively saving the lives of the millions of Allied soldiers and Japanese civilians who would have died in a land invasion. Critics point out that Japan was already on the verge of collapse, its navy destroyed and its cities burned, and that the entry of the Soviet Union into the war on August 8th was the real catalyst for surrender. Regardless of where one stands on the morality, the legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is etched into our global consciousness. It birthed the concept of mutual assured destruction. It created the hibakusha, the survivors who have spent their lives bearing witness to the horrors of nuclear war, pleading with the world to ensure it never happens again. Today, the Genbaku Dome stands in the heart of Hiroshima. It is the skeletal remains of the only building left standing near the hypocenter. It serves as a stark, silent reminder of that August morning. As we look back at these events, we aren't just looking at history. We are looking at a mirror. Hiroshima and Nagasaki represent the ultimate crossroads of our species, our ability to unlock the fundamental secrets of the universe, and our capacity to use those secrets to destroy ourselves. The story of the atomic bombings isn't just about the end of World War II. It's about the beginning of a world where we must live with the knowledge that we have the power to end everything. It is a story of tragedy, of science, of politics, but above all, it is a plea for peace. Because in the shadow of the mushroom cloud, there are no winners. There is only the memory of those who were lost, and the responsibility of those who remain to ensure that the sun never sets on humanity in such a terrifying way again. The silence that followed the explosions still echoes today. It's a silence that asks us, what have we learned? And as we watch the footage of those towers of smoke rising into the stratosphere, we have to realize that the history of Hiroshima and Nagasaki isn't behind us. It is with us every single day, in every treaty signed and every weapon held in reserve. This was the day the world changed. This was the day we realized that prompt and utter destruction wasn't just a threat, it was a button away. And as you see the names of the victims etched into the memorials of Peace Memorial Park, remember that they aren't just numbers. They were people. People who, like us, woke up to a clear blue sky, never imagining that by noon their world, and ours, would be changed forever. If you found this documentary insightful and want to see more deep dives into the moments that shaped our modern world, please hit the like button and share this video to keep the conversation going. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.